The merchant vessel Gentle Current drifted through the Kepler Nebula, its crystalline hull reflecting the purple and gold gases that swirled around it like cosmic silk. Captain Zephay's forearms moved gracefully across the bioluminescent control surfaces, his species' natural telepathic connection with their living ships making navigation through the treacherous nebula almost effortless. The Velnari had been peaceful traders for over 3 millennia, their philosophy centered on harmony and mutual prosperity. "Captain," chirped Navigator Kilseth from her perch near the observation dome, her delicate wings fluttering with concern. "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures ahead. They don't match any known stellar phenomena." Zephay's large, compound eyes shifted through the spectrum as he analyzed the readings. The Gentle Current's living sensors were among the most sensitive in known space, capable of detecting life signs from several light-years away. What they were picking up now made his skin change from its natural blue-green to a worried amber. "Those aren't natural formations," he said, his voice carrying the melodic tones typical of his species. "They're ships. Thousands of them." The crew of 12 Velnari moved to their stations with fluid precision. Despite being traders, they were well-trained in emergency protocols. Their species had survived by being cautious and diplomatic, avoiding conflicts whenever possible. The Gentle Current was equipped with advanced stealth capabilities and could easily slip away undetected. But as they drew closer, the scope of what they discovered made escape seem impossible. Spread across a region of space larger than most solar systems was a fleet unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The ships were massive, angular constructs of dark metal, and energy that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Each vessel was easily 10 times the size of the largest known warships, and there were so many of them that they created their own gravitational anomalies. "By the sacred currents," whispered Engineer Thaxvin, his usually steady hands trembling as he worked the sensors. "Captain, I'm reading over 50,000 vessels, maybe more. The interference from their engines is making accurate counts impossible." Zephay felt his heart racing. In all his years of trading across the galaxy, he had never seen anything like this. The ships bore no markings that matched any known civilization in the galactic registry. Their design was purely functional, built for one purpose: war. "Are they active?" asked Communications Officer Velara, her young voice barely above a whisper. Thaxvin's skin flickered through several color changes as he processed the data. "No, Captain, they're completely powered down. Life support minimal, engines cold. It's like they're sleeping." "How long have they been here?" Zephay asked. "Based on the cosmic dust accumulation and the energy decay patterns, at least 500 years, maybe longer." The implications were staggering. Whoever had built this fleet had possessed technology far beyond current galactic standards, and they had simply stopped. Left their massive armada floating in the nebula like a forgotten graveyard. "Captain," Velara's voice carried a new urgency. "I'm detecting a transmission. It's very faint, coming from the center of the fleet." "Put it through." The bridge filled with static, then gradually a signal emerged. It wasn't in any language the ship's computers recognized, but there was something about its rhythm, its cadence, that spoke of intelligence. Of desperation. "It's a repeating pattern," Velara reported. "The same message over and over. It's been broadcasting for..." "Captain, the timestamp indicates this signal has been running for over 4 centuries. Zephay made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Record everything. Full spectrum analysis. We need to understand what this is before we..." His words were cut off as proximity alarms began blaring. One of the massive dark ships was powering up, its engines creating ripples in space-time that rocked the Gentle Current despite being thousands of kilometers away. "Captain!" "It's scanning us." Thax's color shifted to deep purple, indicating extreme fear.
"The scan is unlike anything I've ever encountered. It's not just reading our ship, it's reading us."
"Our biology, our neural patterns, even our memories." The scan completed in seconds, but it felt like hours. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the massive ship powered down again. The fleet returned to its eternal slumber. But the damage was done. The transmission they had been monitoring changed. The desperate, repeating message was joined by new signals, all in different languages, all carrying the same terrible urgency. "Captain!" Velara's voice was barely audible. "The ship that scanned us." "It's added our language to the transmission. It's translating the message." The bridge fell silent as the translation came through their speakers, clear and unmistakable. Emergency broadcast to the human colonial fleet. This is Admiral Sarah Chen, commanding the research station New Horizon. We are under attack by an unknown alien force. They appeared without warning and have overwhelmed our defenses. The colony worlds of Kepler 442b, Kepler 452b, and Gliese 667c are gone. Casualties are in the billions. We estimate less than 6 hours before our position is overrun. The enemy shows no interest in communication or negotiation. They appear to be conducting systematic extermination. If anyone receives this message, warn Earth. Tell them the Scourge has found us. Tell them we held the line as long as we could. Tell them we're sorry we failed. The message repeated, but now was joined by dozens of others. Battle reports, casualty lists, final transmissions from dying ships and burning worlds. All human. All desperate. All from a war that had ended over 400 years ago. Zephy's skin had gone completely white, a color his species only displayed in the face of absolute terror. The humans, he whispered. These are human ships. But, Captain. Kilseth's wings had folded against her body in distress. Humans are a myth. A legend. No one has ever seen a human. No, Zephy said, his voice growing stronger as understanding dawned. Not a myth. They've been here all along. Waiting. As if summoned by his words, more ships began to stir. Not powering up completely, but showing signs of systems coming online. Running diagnostics. Preparing. Faxfin, Zephy ordered. Trace those distress signals. Find out where they came from. All of them. The engineer worked frantically at his station, his multiple arms moving in practice coordination. Captain, the signals, they're coming from the Outer Rim territories, the same region where the hegemony has been expanding. The hegemony. The Velnari knew them well, though they tried to avoid their territory whenever possible. A coalition of aggressive species that had been systematically conquering and enslaving worlds for the past 2 centuries. They were currently at war with the peaceful Zentari Federation, pushing deeper into colonized space with each passing year. The timeline matches, Zephy realized. The humans were fighting something 400 years ago, something that exterminated entire worlds. You think the hegemony? No, Zephy interrupted. Something else. Something worse. Something that made the humans build this. He gestured at the vast fleet surrounding them. This isn't a fleet built for conquest. This is a fleet built for vengeance. The realization hit the crew like a physical blow. The humans, whoever they had been, had built the largest military force in galactic history not to expand or explore, but to hunt down and destroy the enemies who had wiped out their colonies. Captain! Felara's voice was shaking. New transmissions coming in. They're not from the fleet. They're current, real-time signals from the Outer Rim. The bridge filled with panicked voices speaking in dozens of different languages. Zentari military commanders calling for evacuation. Refugee ships broadcasting desperate pleas for help. Colony worlds going dark one by one. And beneath it all, a new sound. Something that made every Velnari on the bridge instinctively recoil in terror. It was the sound of something vast and hungry consuming everything in its path. The Scourge, Zephy whispered. They've returned. As if responding to the name, the human fleet began to wake up in earnest. Ship after ship powered up, their dark hulls beginning to glow with internal energy. The sound of 50,000 war engines spinning up created a harmonic resonance that vibrated through the gentle current's hull. Captain! Thaxfin called out, his voice barely audible over the growing rumble. The lead ship is hailing us. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the massive human vessel. But there was no one there. Instead, a holographic interface materialized, displaying information in symbols that seemed to write themselves directly into the observers' minds. When it spoke, its voice was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was the voice of authority forged in the fires of absolute necessity. Vessel Gentle Current, this is the Human Colonial Defense Network. I am AGIS, Fleet Command Intelligence. You have witnessed the awakening. You carry knowledge of our purpose. State your intentions. Zephy stepped forward, his diplomatic training taking over despite his fear. I am Captain Zephy of the merchant vessel Gentle Current. We are traders of the Velnari Collective. We mean no harm. We were simply... Your species, Aegis interrupted, maintains trade relations with 47 different civilizations. You have access to current military intelligence and communication networks. You can serve as our advanced scouts. Advanced scouts for what? The hologram shifted, showing star charts with movement vectors and tactical assessments. The entity your people call the hegemony is not the true threat. They are servants, foot soldiers of the Scourge, the same force that destroyed human civilization 4 centuries ago. The same force that now threatens the Zentari Federation and will continue expanding until all organic life is consumed. Images flashed across the screen. Worlds stripped bare of all life. Cities reduced to ash. Entire species extinct, their homeworlds left as lifeless rocks drifting through space. We have monitored galactic communications for 437 years, AEGIS continued. We have studied every species, every government, every military force in known space. None possess the capability to stop the Scourge. None except us. But your own worlds were destroyed. Kilseth whispered. How can you? Destroyed, yes, but not forgotten. The display changed, showing Earth. Not as it was now, but as it had been. Blue skies, green continents, billions of human lives. We carry the memory of what was lost. We carry the rage of the extinct. We are not fighting to reclaim our worlds. We are fighting to ensure no other species suffers what we suffered. The magnitude of what they were witnessing began to sink in. This wasn't just a military fleet. It was the concentrated fury of an entire species, refined and focused by centuries of patient preparation. The Velnari Collective will be informed of our awakening, AEGIS stated. It wasn't a request. Your governments will be given the choice. Stand with us against the Scourge or stand aside. But know this, we will not allow another genocide to occur while we have the power to prevent it. And if our governments refuse? Zephe asked. Then they will be removed from the path of those who choose to fight. The implications were clear. The humans had returned not as conquerors, but as something far more dangerous, saviors who would brook no interference in their mission. Your ship will be escorted to the edge of our operational zone, AEGS announced. You will carry our message to the Galactic Council. Tell them the Deathworld fleet has awakened. Tell them the hunt begins now. As the gentle current was surrounded by massive human escort vessels, Zephe realized that the galaxy was about to change forever. The peaceful age of trade and diplomacy was ending. The age of humanity's vengeance had begun. And somewhere in the depths of space, the Scourge was about to discover that they had made a terrible mistake 400 years ago. They had killed the humans, but they hadn't killed them all. And the survivors had spent every day since that genocide preparing for this moment. The sleeping giants were awake, and they were very, very angry. The Galactic Council chamber on Nexus Prime fell into stunned silence as Captain Zephe finished his report. The massive circular amphitheater, with its representation from over 200 species, had never been so quiet. Even the usually chattering Pipki delegates had fallen completely still, their feathered crests flat against their heads in shock. Council Speaker Mordon, a towering crystalline being whose species had mediated galactic disputes for over a millennium, processed the information with visible difficulty. His normally stable light patterns flickered erratically as he struggled to comprehend what he'd heard. Captain Zephe, Mordon's voice resonated through the chamber's acoustic enhancement systems. You're asking us to believe that a mythical species has maintained a fleet of 50,000 warships in secret for 4 centuries. Not mythical, honored speaker, Zephe replied, his skin maintaining the formal deep blue of diplomatic protocol despite his inner turmoil. Very real, very much alive, and very much prepared for war. The Zentari delegate, General Kextara, leaned forward in her hovering platform. Her species was currently bearing the brunt of hegemony expansion, losing colonies at an alarming rate. Did they provide any proof of their capabilities, military specifications, tactical assessments? They provided something better, General. Zephe activated the holographic display system, showing the recorded encounter. They provided a demonstration. The chamber watched in growing amazement as the footage played. The massive dark ships coming online, the impossible size of the fleet, the conversation with AGIS. But what truly captured their attention was the final moments of the recording, when the human escort vessels had surrounded the gentle current. The scale was overwhelming. Even the smallest human ships dwarfed the largest vessels in the combined galactic fleets. Their technology appeared to be centuries beyond current standards, and their coordination was flawless. Notice the energy signatures, Zephe pointed out. Our sensors couldn't even properly classify their power systems. And watch this. The recording showed one of the escort vessels casually moving through a dense asteroid field that would have required careful navigation for any other ship. The human vessel simply phased through the asteroids as if they weren't there. Matter displacement technology, whispered Dr. Ralvex, the Council's chief science advisor. Theoretical until now. They can selectively phase parts of their ships out of normal space. The military applications are obvious, General Kextara observed grimly. Shields become useless. Armor becomes irrelevant. They could phase weapons directly inside enemy vessels. The hegemony representative, War Master Vrex, slammed one of his 4 fists on his platform. The reptilian warrior's scarred face twisted with contempt. Lies and fabrication. No species could hide such a fleet. The hegemony controls the most advanced surveillance network in the galaxy. Your surveillance network, interrupted Councillor Talmari of the Janai Confederacy, has failed to detect half the rebel movements in your own territory. Perhaps your confidence is misplaced. Vrex's eyes blazed with fury, but before he could respond, the chamber's emergency alert system activated. Red warning lights bathed the assembly as urgent signals flooded in from across the galaxy. Priority communications from the Outer Rim announced the chamber's AI system. Multiple distress signals. Mass casualty events reported from 17 star systems. The main display shifted to show a tactical map of the galactic edge. Red markers indicated worlds going dark, communication blackouts spreading like a plague across the frontier. The Yilnara system has gone silent, reported one of the communication technicians. 3 billion inhabitants, no response to any hails. Kethvar Prime is reporting complete evacuation. Another called out. They're saying something is consuming their star. General Kextara stood abruptly, her blue-scaled features pale with horror. Those are Zentari colonies. We have defense fleets stationed there. Orbital platforms. Nothing could penetrate those defenses without... Her words were cut off as new signals arrived. These weren't distress calls. They were something far worse. Automated final transmissions from dying worlds. Recording from Kethvar Prime 37 minutes ago, the AI announced. The chamber filled with the sound of a world dying. Screams, explosions, and beneath it all, a sound that made every being present feel a primal terror. It was the sound of something vast and alien, something that existed only to consume. Then, cutting through the chaos, came a human voice. This is Admiral Marcus Stone of the Human Colonial Defense Network. All civilian vessels are ordered to evacuate immediately. Military vessels are to fall back to coordinates Alpha 7-7. The Scourge Advance Force has been engaged and destroyed, but their main fleet is 12 hours out. Repeat, the Scourge main fleet is 12 hours from this position. The transmission ended in static, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Human forces are already engaged, Mordun said slowly. They're fighting the Scourge right now. Impossible, Vrex snarled. The hegemony has complete intelligence on all military movements in that sector. No fleet could have reached those worlds in time, unless, Dr. Hadge, Ralvex said quietly, they were already there, waiting. The implications were staggering. While the galaxy had been focused on the hegemony's expansion, the humans had been quietly positioning their forces, preparing for the return of their ancient enemy. New signals began arriving, but these were different. They were military reports, precise and professional, detailing tactical assessments and casualty reports from active combat zones. Human Battle Group Vengeance reporting successful defense of the Veltara system. Enemy casualties, complete elimination of Scourge Advance Force, approximately 40,000 units. Human casualties, 0. Proceeding to next defensive position. Battle Group Retribution has engaged Scourge forces at the Killnex Nebula. Enemy bioships neutralized through concentrated antimatter bombardment. No survivors detected. Moving to support Battle Group Wrath at coordinates Beta 42. The reports continued, each one describing victories so complete, so one-sided that they seemed impossible. The humans weren't just fighting the Scourge. They were systematically annihilating them. How many battle groups do they have? General Kextara asked in amazement. Current communications indicate at least 50 active battle groups, the AI reported, each consisting of approximately 1,000 vessels. 50,000 ships, Mordun calculated. Captain Zefhay's estimate was accurate. But Vrex wasn't finished. The Hegemony Warmaster stood and addressed the chamber with barely contained rage. Even if these humans exist, even if they possess such a fleet, they are still interfering with legitimate hegemony expansion operations. The worlds being defended are under hegemony protection contracts. Protection contracts signed under duress, Telmari pointed out coldly. after your forces destroyed their orbital defenses and threatened bombardment of civilian populations. Legal technicalities. Vrex spat. The hegemony claims those systems under rights of conquest. His words were interrupted by a new transmission, this one directed specifically at the Council chamber. Galactic Council, this is Admiral Sarah Chen, commanding the Human Colonial Defense Network. The chamber fell silent as a hologram materialized in the center of the amphitheater. It showed a woman in military uniform, her graying hair pulled back severely, her eyes holding depths of experience and pain that spoke of centuries of preparation for this moment. I am addressing you from the bridge of the dreadnought Humanity's Wrath, currently positioned at the edge of the hegemony's claimed territory. We have been monitoring your debates regarding our existence and our actions. She paused, her gaze seeming to focus on each delegate individually. Despite the holographic nature of the transmission, let me be clear about our position. The entity you call the hegemony is not an independent power. They are servants of the Scourge, the same force that exterminated human civilization 400 years ago. Their expansion has been guided by Scourge influences, preparing the galaxy for consumption. War Master Vrex leaped to his feet. Lies. The hegemony serves no alien master. We are. You are puppets, Admiral Chen interrupted, her voice cutting through his protest with cold authority. And your usefulness to your masters has ended. Even now, Scourge biofleets are moving to consume the worlds you conquered for them. Your own homeworld of Vrexstar is 12 hours from complete consumption. The color drain from Vrex's scales. Impossible. Vrexstar is the most heavily defended world in hegemony space. Nothing could penetrate. Your orbital platforms were built using Scourge biotechnology. Your defensive grids incorporate Scourge neural networks. You have built your defenses using weapons designed by your enemy. When they activate their override protocols, your own defenses will turn against you. The hologram shifted, showing real-time tactical displays from across hegemony space. World after world showed the same pattern. Defensive systems going offline, orbital weapons turning on their own populations, entire fleets suddenly attacking the worlds they were meant to protect. The hegemony expansion was never about conquest, Admiral Chen continued. It was about harvesting. Concentrating populations, breaking down their defenses, preparing them for efficient consumption. You have been farmers for the Scourge, and now the harvest has begun. The chamber erupted into chaos as delegates from species allied with the hegemony began receiving emergency communications from their homeworlds. The reports were identical. Their allies were turning against them. Their defenses were failing, and something vast and hungry was moving through their space. What do you want from us? Morden asked, his crystalline voice cutting through the panic. Nothing, Admiral Chen replied. We do not require your permission to defend the galaxy. We do not need your approval to hunt down the Scourge. But we are offering you a choice. The display changed, showing tactical maps with human fleet positions marked in blue and Scourge incursions marked in red. The human forces were clearly outnumbered, but their positioning was perfect, forming a defensive line that protected the core worlds of dozens of species. Stand with us, and we will protect your worlds as we would have protected our own. Oppose us, and you will be removed from the battlefield for your own safety. Ignore us, and you will likely survive, because we will ensure the Scourge never reaches you.
And if we choose to stand with you?
General Kextara asked. Then you will witness the beginning of the end for the Scourge. We have spent 4 centuries preparing for this war. Every ship in our fleet is crewed by volunteers who lost everything to these creatures. Every weapon we carry was designed specifically to kill them. Every tactic we employ was developed through careful study of their weaknesses. The hologram focused on the Zentari general. Your people are already fighting for their lives. We can save your remaining colonies, but only if you trust us to do what must be done, which is total extermination of the Scourge. Not just their fleets, not just their advanced forces, but every trace of their existence. We will hunt them across the galaxy until not a single creature remains. We will purge every world they have touched, cleanse every system they have corrupted, and ensure that never again will any species suffer what humanity suffered. The scope of their commitment was breathtaking. They weren't just planning to defeat an enemy. They were planning to commit genocide on a galactic scale. The Council will need time to consider. Morden began. You have 6 hours, Admiral Chen interrupted. After that, we begin our offensive whether you support us or not. Choose quickly, because once we start, nothing will stop us until every Scourge creature in the galaxy is dead. The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the Council chamber in stunned silence. Outside, across the galaxy, the ancient war between humanity and the Scourge was beginning again. But this time, the humans were not caught unprepared. This time, they were the hunters. And they had come to finish what the Scourge had started 400 years ago. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the command deck of Humanity's Wrath, watching the tactical displays that showed the first major engagement of the renewed war. The bridge around her hummed with quiet efficiency, staffed by officers whose families had been preparing for this moment for 16 generations. Scourge biofleet detected at the edge of the Korthax system, reported Commander Williams, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were facing. Estimated strength, 2 million combat organisms, plus support creatures. They're moving directly toward the refugee camps. The Korthax system had become a rallying point for species fleeing the hegemony collapse. Nearly 40 billion refugees from a dozen different civilizations had gathered there, protected by a hastily assembled defense fleet of ships from the Galactic Council's member species. What's the status of the Council forces? Chen asked. 1,700 ships from 8 different species, Lieutenant Commander Torres replied from the communication station. Brave, but completely outmatched. Their combined firepower won't even slow down a Scourge biofleet that size. Chen nodded grimly. The Council species had courage, but they had never faced an enemy like the Scourge. Their weapons were designed for battles between civilized species, with rules and limitations. The Scourge followed no rules except consumption. Battle Group Vengeance status report. All ships ready for engagement, Admiral, came the reply from Captain Morrison aboard the dreadnought Earth's Fury. We've been waiting 400 years for this. Battle Group Retribution? Standing by, reported Captain Singh from Mankind's Resolve. All weapon systems charged, all crews at maximum readiness. Chen looked around the bridge at her officers. Some were young, barely past academy age. Others were veterans who had been born on the generation ships, spending their entire lives preparing for this war. All of them carried the genetic memory of humanity's greatest tragedy. This is it, she announced to the fleet. The first real test of everything we've built, everything we've planned. Remember what we're fighting for. Remember what they took from us. Remember that beyond those refugee camps are billions of beings who have never done anything except try to live peaceful lives. She paused, letting her words sink in across 50,000 ships. Today we show the galaxy why you never corner a human. Today we show the Scourge why they should have killed us all when they had the chance. All ships, engage on my mark. The human fleet moved as one, a perfect symphony of destruction that had been rehearsed countless times in simulation but never tested in actual combat. They had studied every recorded encounter with the Scourge, analyzed every piece of wreckage, learned from every defeat their ancestors had suffered. The Scourge biofleet was massive beyond imagination. Each creature was the size of a city, grown rather than built, living ships with acidic blood and regenerative capabilities that made them nearly impossible to kill with conventional weapons. They moved through space like a living tide, consuming everything in their path. But the humans had not brought conventional weapons. Deploy the viral torpedoes, Chen ordered. Across the human fleet, weapons that had taken centuries to develop were fired for the first time in actual combat. Each torpedo contained a modified virus, specifically engineered to target Scourge biomatter. It was humanity's gift to the galaxy. The ability to turn the Scourge's greatest strength into their greatest weakness. The torpedo struck the leading edge of the biofleet and detonated, releasing clouds of engineered death. The effect was immediate and devastating. Scourge creatures that had seemed invincible began to dissolve from the inside out, their own biology turning against them. Direct hits confirmed, Williams reported. Viral infection spreading through the biofleet, estimated 30% casualty rate in the first wave. But the Scourge adapted quickly. They always did. The surviving creatures began to change their biological structure, developing immunity to the viral attack even as their fellow creatures died around them. Phase 2, Chen commanded. The human fleet shifted tactics with seamless precision. Antimatter bombardment cannons opened fire, creating weapons of such destructive power that they could crack planets. But these weren't aimed at the Scourge creatures themselves. Instead, they targeted the space around them, creating antimatter fields that would annihilate anything that entered them. The Scourge biofleet found itself trapped in a web of destructive energy, unable to advance without entering fields that would instantly destroy them. But they were not helpless. Incoming biomissiles, Torres reported. They're launching their young at us. The Scourge had a terrifying reproductive strategy. When threatened, they would launch their offspring like living projectiles, each one capable of growing into a full-sized creature if it found a suitable host. Millions of these biomissiles now streaked toward the human fleet. "Activate the point defense grids," Chen ordered. The human ships transformed, their hulls erupting with thousands of small weapons turrets. Each turret was guided by artificial intelligence that had been programmed with 4 centuries of tactical data. They began firing simultaneously, creating a wall of energy that intercepted the biomissiles before they could reach their targets. But some got through. They always did. The light cruiser New Johannesburg took a direct hit as a biomissile penetrated its shields. The organic projectile began to burrow into the ship's hull, attempting to establish a foothold that would allow it to consume the vessel from within. "New Johannesburg is requesting assistance," Williams reported. "Bio-infestation in progress." "Negative," Chen replied coldly. "Execute sterilization protocol." On the infected ship, Captain Rodriguez received the order with grim acceptance. He had known this day might come. They all had. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's communication system. "Prepare for sterilization protocol. It's been an honor serving with you." The New Johannesburg detonated in a controlled antimatter explosion, taking the biomissile with it and preventing the infection from spreading. 300 human lives were lost in an instant, but 300 billion refugee lives were saved. "One ship down," Chen reported to the fleet. "Their sacrifice will not be forgotten." The battle continued with mechanical precision. The humans had learned from humanity's first war with the Scourge that emotional responses led to tactical errors. Every move was calculated, every loss was acceptable if it served the greater strategic goal. But they had also learned something else. The Scourge had weaknesses that could be exploited. "Deploy the resonance weapons," Chen ordered. This was humanity's newest creation, developed through careful study of Scourge biology. The resonance weapons produced specific frequencies that disrupted the neural networks that connected individual Scourge creatures to their hive mind. Cut off from their collective intelligence, the creatures became confused, disoriented, and vulnerable. The effect rippled through the biofleet as millions of creatures suddenly found themselves isolated in their own minds for the first time in their existence. They began to attack each other, their instincts driving them to consume anything available, including their own kind. "Biofleet cohesion is breaking down," Williams reported with satisfaction. "They're turning on each other." "Now," Chen commanded. "All ships, full assault. Show them what happens when they threaten innocence." The human fleet unleashed everything they had. Weapons that bent space-time, ammunition that existed partially in alternate dimensions, energy beams that could cut through the fabric of reality itself. 4 centuries of technological development, driven by the single-minded goal of Scourge extermination, was brought to bear on the biofleet. The results were spectacular. Scourge creatures that had seemed immortal were reduced to cosmic dust in seconds. Bioships that could regenerate from almost any damage found themselves unable to heal fast enough to survive the continuous assault. Within hours, the massive biofleet was completely destroyed. 2 million Scourge combat organisms, reduced to floating organic debris, but Chen knew this was only the beginning. "Communications open a channel to all Council forces in the system." "Channel open, Admiral." "This is Admiral Chen to all Galactic Council vessels. The immediate threat has been neutralized. Begin evacuation of refugee camps immediately." This was only an advance force. "The main Scourge armada is still coming." General Kextara's voice came through from the Zentari command ship. "Admiral, how is this possible? We've been fighting these creatures for months. Our best weapons barely scratched their hulls, but you destroyed them in hours." "General, your species have been fighting for months with weapons designed to disable and capture. We have been preparing for 4 centuries with weapons designed to kill. The difference in philosophy leads to very different results." "What are your orders, Admiral?" came another voice, this one from a Valnari captain. "Form up behind our defensive line, stay out of our engagement zones, and prepare to witness the end of the Scourge as a galactic threat." As the refugee fleets began their evacuation, protected by the massive human armada, long-range sensors detected new contacts approaching from the galactic edge. The main Scourge force was arriving. Billions of creatures, planet-sized bioships, and at their center, something that registered on sensors as a small moon but moved with obvious intelligence. "The Scourge Queen," Chen whispered, staring at the sensor readings. "After all these years, we finally get to meet the creature that ordered the death of our species." The Queen was ancient beyond measure, the original Scourge organism from which all others had spawned. It had personally commanded the fleet that destroyed Earth, that consumed the human colonies, that had driven humanity to the edge of extinction. "All battle groups converge on my position," Chen commanded. It's time to finish what started 400 years ago. As the human fleet prepared for the final battle, the galaxy watched and waited. The peaceful age was ending. The age of the Scourge was ending. The age of human vengeance had truly begun. And somewhere in the approaching darkness, the creature responsible for humanity's greatest tragedy was about to discover that some species, when pushed to the brink of extinction, don't just survive. They evolve. The final confrontation began in the deep void between stars, where the fabric of space itself seemed to tremble at the approach of the Scourge Queen's armada. She was ancient beyond mortal comprehension, a creature that had consumed countless civilizations across multiple galaxies, leaving only sterile worlds in her wake. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of humanity's wrath, surrounded by holographic displays showing the largest military engagement in galactic history. 50,000 human ships faced off against billions of Scourge bioforms, their dark hulls creating shadows against the starfield that stretched beyond the horizon of human sight. Final sensor sweep complete, Commander Williams reported. Confirmed. The Queen herself is present. Biomass readings indicate she's approximately the size of Earth's moon, with an estimated age of over 50 million years. Chen felt a cold satisfaction settle in her chest. This creature had personally overseen the destruction of humanity's homeworld, had watched as billions of human lives were snuffed out in a matter of days. Now, after 4 centuries of preparation, they would meet face to face. Open a channel to the Queen, Chen commanded. Admiral, are you certain? Direct communication with the Scourge Queen has never been attempted. Open the channel, Commander. The view screen flickered to life, showing the approaching bio-armada. At its center, the Queen's massive form defied description. She was not a single creature, but a collective of billions of organisms working in perfect harmony, her surface writhing with activity as she constantly consumed and reproduced her own children. When she spoke, her voice resonated through dimensions that human minds could barely comprehend, translated by advanced AI systems into something approaching language. The extinct species returns. The Queen's voice carried amusement mixed with hunger. I remember your kind. Weak, fragile. Your worlds burned so beautifully. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Colonial Defense Network. Chen replied, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. I speak for the survivors of the species you tried to exterminate. We have a message for you. Survivors? The Queen's attention focused on the human fleet with new interest. Impossible. I consumed your homeworld personally. I tasted the fear of your billions as they died. There were no survivors. There were enough, Chen said simply. Enough to remember. Enough to learn. Enough to prepare. Around the Queen, her biofleet began to shift into attack formation. Millions of creatures, each one a living weapon designed for consumption and destruction, spread out in patterns that would have overwhelmed any conventional force. That the humans were ready. You have grown strong, the Queen admitted, studying the human ships with predatory interest. But strength is meaningless against the Scourge. We adapt. We evolve. We consume all organic matter and become stronger. Your resistance will only make your final consumption more satisfying. We're counting on your adaptability, Chen replied. It's going to make what comes next much more effective. The Queen paused, something resembling confusion crossing her massive features. Explain. For 400 years we've studied you. Every piece of wreckage you left behind, every creature that survived your attacks, every biological sample we could recover. We learned how you adapt, how you evolve, how you consume. And then we designed something specifically for you. Chen activated a new set of controls, and across the human fleet ships began to change. Their hulls opened like flowers, revealing interiors that pulsed with bioluminescent energy. Impossible, the Queen whispered, her voice carrying notes of something that might have been fear. Those are human bioships. Did you think you were the only species capable of biological engineering? Chen asked. We took everything you taught us about organic technology and improved upon it. These ships aren't just machines, they're alive, they're hungry, and they've been designed with one specific appetite. The human bioships began to sing, a harmonic frequency that resonated through space itself. The sound was hauntingly beautiful, like whale songs mixed with electronic music, but underneath it carried something far more sinister. That frequency, the Queen said, her massive form beginning to show signs of distress. It's designed to... No. Yes, Chen confirmed. It's designed to trigger cannibalistic behavior in scourge bioforms. Every creature in your armada is about to discover that they find the taste of their own kind irresistibly delicious. The effect began at the edges of the biofleet. Smaller creatures suddenly turned on their larger companions, driven by an engineered hunger that overrode their hive-mind connections. The larger creatures, confused by the attack, retaliated, and within minutes the entire biofleet was consuming itself in an orgy of cannibalistic violence. But the queen herself was too large, too ancient to be affected by the frequency. She watched in rage as her children devoured each other, then turned her attention back to the human fleet. "Clever," she snarled, "but I'm beyond such simple manipulations. I will consume your bioships and add their capabilities to my own. Your weapons will become my weapons." "We were hoping you'd say that," Chen replied. The queen launched herself directly at the human fleet, her massive bulk moving with surprising speed. Bioweapons erupted from her surface, projectiles of living matter that could consume entire ships and convert them into extensions of her own body. The human bioships met her charge head-on, their living hulls intertwining with her bioweapons in a display of organic engineering that defied comprehension. For a moment, it appeared that the Queen's ancient experience would triumph over human innovation. Then the trap was sprung. "Now, AGIS," Chen commanded. Throughout the human fleet, artificial intelligence systems that had been disguised as simple ship computers revealed their true nature. They were not just AI. They were digitized human consciousnesses, the uploaded minds of volunteers who had chosen to become one with their ships. "Hello, Your Majesty," came a voice from every human bioship simultaneously. "We've been waiting to meet you." The Queen suddenly found herself connected not to mindless biomatter, but to 50,000 human minds that had spent centuries planning for this exact moment. The bioships she was attempting to consume began consuming her instead, not physically, but informationally, copying her biological templates and turning them against her. What are you doing to me?" The Queen screamed as she felt her own children turning against her, their basic programming rewritten by human consciousness networked together across the fleet. "We're teaching you what extinction feels like," Chen replied. "Every human consciousness in this fleet represents millions of people you murdered. They've been waiting 400 years for this conversation." The Queen's massive form began to convulse as the human bioships established neural connections throughout her body. She was being invaded not by weapons but by pure human will, determined and focused by centuries of preparation. "You cannot destroy me," she insisted, but her voice was weakening. "I am eternal. I am the first. I am the mother of all scourge." "Yes," agreed the collective voice of the human fleet mind. "And now you're going to help us find the rest of your species." Through the neural connections they had established, the humans began downloading the Queen's memories. 50 million years of galactic conquest, the locations of every scourge world, every hidden nest, every secret breeding ground, across multiple galaxies. "Stop," the Queen pleaded, but it was too late. Human consciousness was flowing through her bio-neural networks like wildfire, copying everything she knew, learning everything she had experienced. "The Andromeda nests," whispered one of the uploaded minds. "She has 17 breeding worlds in Andromeda Galaxy." "The dark matter colonies," added another. "She's been seeding civilizations for millions of years, preparing them for harvest." "The quantum nurseries outside normal space-time," came a third voice. "She's been growing scourge queens in pocket dimensions." With each revelation, the scope of the scourge threat became clearer. This had never been about just one galaxy. The Queen was part of a network of ancient predators that spanned the entire local galactic cluster. But now the humans knew where they all were. "Thank you for the information," Chen said as the data download completed. "It's been very educational." "What will you do with me now?" the Queen asked, her voice barely a whisper as human consciousness completed its colonization of her bio-neural networks. "We're going to let you live," Chen replied, causing surprise to ripple through the human fleet mind. "But not as you were. You're going to help us hunt down every other Scourge Queen in existence. You're going to help us cleanse the galaxy of your kind. And you're going to remember, for every moment of every day, what it felt like to watch your entire species die." The Queen's massive form shuddered as the final neural connections were established. When she spoke again, her voice carried harmonics that hadn't been there before. "Human harmonics. I understand," she said. And for the first time in 50 million years, the ancient predator felt something approaching remorse. "What have I done? What have I become?" "You've become human," Chen replied. The one thing you never expected to happen when you tried to exterminate us. You wanted to consume us, but instead, we've consumed you. Around the dying biofleet, the few surviving scourge creatures fled in terror as they watched their queen transformed into something they couldn't understand. Some tried to establish new hive minds, but they found themselves being hunted down by human bioships that now carried all the advantages of scourge biology without any of their weaknesses. Admiral, Commander Williams reported, we're receiving communications from across the galaxy. The Galactic Council is requesting a full report. The Zentari Federation wants to know how they can assist. Even the surviving hegemony worlds are offering to join the hunt. Chen nodded, watching as the Queen's massive form began to reshape itself under human guidance. The ancient predator was learning what it meant to feel protective instincts toward other species, what it meant to create rather than consume. Open a channel to all galactic governments, Chen commanded. This is Admiral Chen of the Human Colonial Defense Network. The scourge threat to this galaxy has been neutralized. However, our scans have revealed that this was only a small fraction of the total scourge population. We estimate that billions of these creatures exist across multiple galaxies, all of them headed toward the galactic cluster containing our worlds. She paused, letting the magnitude of the revelation sink in across dozens of species. The war is not over, it's just beginning. But now we know where our enemies are, and we have the tools to fight them. To all species who wish to join us, welcome to the greatest hunt in galactic history. To any Scourge Queens monitoring this transmission, we're coming for you, all of you. And when we find you, you'll discover what happens when humanity decides your extinction is necessary.
The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy to contemplate the new reality.
The humans had not just survived their near extinction, they had evolved beyond it. They had become something new, something unprecedented in galactic history. They had become the apex predators of apex predators. And somewhere in the depths of space, in galaxies yet uncharted, ancient creatures that had never known fear began to feel a primal terror as they realized that the hunters had become the hunted. The age of the scourge was ending. The age of humanity had begun. Years later, historians would call it the moment when a desperate distress signal awakened sleeping giants. But those who lived through it knew the truth. It wasn't the signal that had awakened the humans. It was the sound of someone else's children crying for help. And humanity had never been able to ignore that sound.